Hi everybody, and if you're just stumbling upon this video, welcome to the channel. I'll start this story like you should start any story with an introduction. My name is Chris Catlett, and on January 31st of 2014, I was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now I'm going to make what I intend to be a 3-part series about what the last year of my life has been like, and this will be part 1, obviously, starting with the diagnosis and what led up to the diagnosis. And it still seems really weird for me to talk about because it also still seems so surreal. Like, if there weren't physical reminders and even mental reminders, it's almost like it was just one really bad dream. Basically, it started out about last October, November. I started to not feel quite right. I first noticed whenever I would go play hockey. I went 1 week and played for about 2.5 hours straight, no breaks. Felt fine, felt great. A couple weeks later, I went back, and after just 30 minutes of playing, I was just exhausted. I could not play anymore. I had to leave. And at that point, I still didn't really suspect anything. I thought maybe I was just fatigued that day or whatever. And then into November and December, I started getting really sick, and at first I kind of just brushed it off, like, oh, maybe it's just a flu, maybe it's just a bad cold or sinus infection, what have you, whatever. And flu-like symptoms. I was getting feverish, night sweats really bad. I had a lymph node, which I don't know if you can see, no longer exists. It was bulging out of my neck, and I still just kind of brushed it off, put it off. Basically, I told my wife, I was like, alright, I'll go get it checked out, but I'm going to wait until after Christmas, after the holidays are over, because I don't want anything going on during the holidays, because we have a young son, and I didn't want Daddy to be sick or whatever was going on. And it's kind of one of those deals. I would type in my symptoms into Google or WebMD, and the first thing that came up was cancer, like every time. And I guess more than anything, I was kind of afraid to find out. I mean, you never want to find out that you have cancer. I mean, that's just, who wants to go to a doctor and hear those words? Nobody. And so I think waited till after New Year's, January 6th, I believe it was, I finally went to the ER, because I was to the point where I actually took a shower, and just from the act of taking a shower, I was so exhausted I had to lay down and take a nap. And then at that point, I was like, alright, it's really time to do something about this, to get it checked out. So I went to the local ER, and then the doctors there did blood work, and they came back and were like, what was the specific question they asked me? I can't remember. They asked me a specific question. It was a very, very odd question. And then later they, just come like, hey, yeah, your kidneys are shutting down. Your blood calcium levels are very high. Your kidneys are shutting down. You can go home if you want to, or you can stay overnight. I'm like, did you seriously just ask me that? Like, what kind of doctor would ask that? Anyway, so I was like, I'm staying. So I stayed overnight at the hospital. The doctor that was overseeing me there wanted to give me a specific medication to reduce the amount of calcium they didn't have, of course, which was probably the best thing that could happen to me because they transferred me to a better hospital that was outside of town, bigger hospital that has a cancer center. So from that point forward, it was pretty much the entire month of January I spent in and out of the hospital. Like, I'd be in there 8 days at a time and stuff, and it's seeing every kind of specialist doctor you can imagine. Nephrologists, hematologists, oncologists. They ran so many tests on me that some of them had to be sent off to the Mayo Clinic, and I was told that they even ran a test on me that they normally would only run on a 60-year-old black man. I mean, and they have to send these things off to the Mayo Clinic to get the results for it. Everything was coming back strange. Like, they had never seen these numbers act the way they had before. And at first they suspected multiple myeloma, which luckily it wasn't that, because that can basically be like a death sentence. I mean, that's a really, really bad cancer that you don't want. That's basically more or less bone marrow cancer, like bone cancer. Like, after all the battery of tests, poking, prodding, CT scans, X-rays, whatever have you, finally, the last test that they ran was a PET scan. I went in for this PET scan on, it was January 27th, I believe. And went in that morning, did the PET scan, went home. 5 o'clock that evening, the oncologist himself calls me. I was like, hey, we really need to get you in here. Just, come in and see me tomorrow. Okay, that doesn't sound good. So I go in, and basically he's like, we're pretty sure you have Hodgkin's lymphoma. And at that point, hearing that, my wife's like, so you mean he has cancer? And the oncologist's like, well, Hodgkin's. She's like, Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer. Yes. As you'll learn, maybe this doctor is very vague with his descriptions of things because he's kind of careful how he words things because he wants you to stay positive. He's a very good doctor. Anyway, I digress. So he said, we're going to set up Friday. We're going to have you go in for a surgery to have that lymph node biopsied. And they're going to biopsy it on the table. And basically they can come back immediately and tell if it is. And if it is, they're going to go ahead and put a port in. Which actually before that they had just taken an aspiration from that lymph node, which basically means I had to lay down on a table, and while they used an ultrasound, they inserted a metal tube into there, and then through that tube went in with this kind of like little device and snipped out pieces of it and took like a drawing of it. So yeah, that was a wonderful thing to go through. Not to mention the bone marrow biopsy that was botched in the hospital room. he could only get the aspiration, which meant he could only draw bone marrow out. And basically, if you've never had a bone marrow biopsy, you don't want to. You don't. The doctor tried to tell me it was like, he described it as like a dental procedure. Yeah. What he didn't really mention is, yeah, it might be like a dental procedure, but it'd be like getting a root canal with no numbing. And basically, it's also kind of a thing where they insert a little middle tube down through your skin, and then through that tube, he had a hand-powered drill trying to drill into my hip bone, and just kind of went in at the wrong place and was hitting nerves. I was gritting and bearing it. I was like, dude, just get it over with. And he's like, oh, it's hurting too much? I'm like, it's hurting, just do it. He's like, no, I'm going to stop. So they never got that part of it. But anyway, back to the actual biopsy. I went in for surgery, and basically the way I found out is I woke up with my port, which I actually still have. I don't know. See the scar right there? It's right there, power port. It's very close to the skin, and that's what they obviously give the chemo through, draw blood, dig, and do all those kind of things with it. At this point, I started worrying not about my own mortality or my own fate. It was more worrying about, our young son. He was 4 years old at the time. My wife lost her father to cancer, and we nearly lost my brother-in-law, her brother, to Burkitt's lymphoma. So she's been around it a lot, and all she was like, no, not again, this can't happen again. And I never once thought about myself. It was kind of like, if you've ever seen Breaking Bad, the way at the beginning, the way Walter White acted whenever he found out the news, that's kind of how it goes. You start freaking out not about yourself, but about what's going to happen to everybody you love, everybody around you, who's going to take care of them. All these things start going through your mind, like your cancer and your therapy and all this is the last thing on your mind. That was a lot of the things that I worried about in the first few days. I mean, the doctor told me at the time, again, being overly optimistic, you could see, I can see through it. Like, I guess some people can't, but I can read people very well. We asked him, like, what are my chances of beating this? He said, well, Hodgkin's is usually generally very treatable. It usually has a 80 to 90% rate of recovery. In your case, which I found out later that the PET scan came back so bad that's why he called me, because the tech took the PET scan to him. And basically it was like I just lit up. It just started to spread into my liver. It was all in my bones, my chest. Basically he said that I had about, and here's how he put it, he's like, I would say 70%. I'm like, oh, that's not too bad, I guess. That's it's like it's better than 50% or 30%, I mean, I joke about things a lot too. Maybe I shouldn't sometimes, but hey, to each his own. It's my life. I can do what the hell I want with it, right? You know, and I did stay pretty positive throughout the whole thing. Like I said, mainly at first what I started worrying about was immediately my family. And if something happened to me, what would happen to them? You know, what would happen with my son being so young? What would happen to my wife? Where would she go? What would she do? I mean, because, you know, we really need each other. I mean, we plan everything together. And if I was to just die one day, then where would she be? I mean, and the same goes the other way around. I mean, I don't know where I would be. I would be totally lost. Like, we're so different, but we fill each other's shortcomings. Like, you know, part of the reason I'm doing this video series now is because, I mean, I have really, really bad social anxiety. Like, I mean, some of you, if you're watching this right now and you know me, you probably know. I'm taking medication for it now. That's helping. And, you know, doing things like this, getting out there, just being more social as I can in my current situation. That's really helping too, and that's why, one of the reasons why I've chosen to start this series. The main reason I've chosen to start this series is if somebody else is out there, if you're watching this right now, and you've been recently diagnosed, I know how you feel. I mean, there's millions out there that know how you feel, and the biggest piece of advice that I can tell you is just, as long as you're able to, have fun. Have fun, joke around, just live life, and when you get through this, you will see things so much differently. Like, I almost consider this a blessing because I see things day to day in such a different light that I never did before. Like, you take so much for granted, and whenever you're faced with the possibility of death, which, you know, I still could die. I don't know. I'm not in remission. I'm just waiting for the next scan. You know, they have to wait like a year before they can even say you're in remission, which would be like next August. I just finished treatment a couple months ago. So yeah, I gotta go back to the doctor next week to get a checkup and get my port flushed, which is a monthly thing I have to do. So yeah, I mean, if you're watching this right now, keep your head up. Biggest piece of advice that you can get: keep your head up. Don't let it get you down. It's stupid, really. It's a stupid disease. There's millions out there going through it with you, and we know how you feel. We all feel the same, and there's my dog here is the neighbor's dog, so I'm gonna end this part today. Anyway, I'm gonna end this part for today, and hopefully Friday I'll be able to post part 2 where I'll talk about my actual treatment and what that was like to go through for me. I know it's going to be different for everybody, but for my personal experience for treatment. So, thank you for watching. If you liked it, please like, comment, please discuss maybe what you're going through or others in the comment section. Please subscribe if you want to see more. I mean, I just want to talk about life. You know, have, like I said in my welcome video, open discussion about life, things in life, what's affecting you. Not always me, what's affecting you, what's affecting your life. things you may want me to talk about. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you hopefully Friday. All right.